the Courtroom War podcast. I'm your host, Andre Jacobs. With us today is a guest on Oprah Winfrey, expert extraordinaire, Dr. Jolie Brams out of Columbus, Ohio. How you doing, Dr. Jolie?
Seeing your face, I'm doing great, Andre.
So why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself? I'm so excited to have you here. I've been telling everybody I'm about to have somebody on a podcast who actually met Oprah.
Yes, but I'd like to say I've done more important things than meeting Oprah. It was wonderful. I mean, when you do something like that, all these life experiences give you an opportunity to learn how to communicate, to see the world. And, one part of I'm a forensic psychologist. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But one part of providing services to the court and understanding people is to have life experiences. And one of the things that I talk to young people about how do you end up helping people? Part of it is professional skills, but part of it, Andre, is a worldliness. You've got to really get out there and talk to people and meet people and think about people. You have to put yourself in other people's shoes. You can't live their life, but you can go to their homes. You can read the New York Times. You can read the Washington Post. You can think about things, become educated. And obviously, Andre, you're an amazing story because you came into this situation with little and you've come out to be just a shining star of what people can be. You're an exception to the rule. You are an exception to the rule. Somebody and say, okay, this person's depressed. The court doesn't particularly care, nor does a jury care if someone's depressed. They want to know how this person got to the point of committing an offense and what do they do with that person. In order to do that, it's not a diagnosis. It's understanding that person in total. And that, I think, is what people have to start thinking about in our justice system.
What about like financial issues? Like, can everybody afford Dr. Brahms or, that kind of service?
Money is an issue. Money is
an issue.
Yeah, money is continuing issue. And when you find people at my level, we do charge for our services. Now, obviously, it depends. You got to look at it like I'm a surgeon. If I come there and say, instead of spending 30 years locked up, you're going to spend 10 years locked up, you're giving somebody 20 years of their life. Giving them the life that God gave them, you're giving them 20 years. That's huge. So like in the federal courts, what's a downward departure? It's a situation where that behavior and that offense is not typical of that person's functioning, and there's mitigating reasons why they engage in that. You could have a mother who needed money because she's ill. You could have felt pressure from an older brother who was the only person in your life because your parents never took care of you. There's many, many, many reasons why people commit offense behaviors. And the judicial system needs to be aware of those things. I think the problem is that it's very easy to give someone a prison sentence. It's very easy to say 20 years. These are all words that prosecutors go, I want 20 years. Does anybody really, besides someone like you, understand what that means? Does anybody really understand what it means to be in a box for 20 years? And even if you're in GP, in general population, what does it mean to be in the same 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 acres for the rest of your life? The same building for the rest of your life. When we talk about forensic psychology and you talk about a child raised in trauma, it all is domino effect. It affects how they problem solve, how they control themselves biologically. It affects learning, which affects mastery, which affects self-esteem, which affects who you're going to hang around with, which affects, are you smart enough to figure out what the heck is going on when you hang around with your dudes, which affects, can you control your finger on the gun, which affects how you talk to your lawyer. We could go on and on and on.
You don't know which way to go.